In this unit, we're going to look at the chemical composition of the body, and we're also going to focus in on enzyme function. After covering this unit, you're going to be able to answer questions such as, does turkey actually make you sleepy? We're going to look at elements and atoms, and we're going to cover inorganic chemistry, the importance of water and pH. We're also going to look at organic chemistry, which has 4 major classes of organic molecules. These are proteins and lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. Understanding the chemistry of the body is going to help you to understand various disorders. For example, if you understand how enzymes function, then you can understand how conditions such as albinism can take place. For example, in this, the person is missing the enzyme known as tyrosinase, which is used to convert tyrosine over to eventually melanin. And melanin is that pigment you find in the skin. So without this enzyme, the person is not able to make melanin, and they wind up with albinism. Phenylketonuria is another condition in which the person's lacking an enzyme used to convert phenylalanine over to tyrosine. Phenylalanine is an amino acid, and you use this enzyme called phenylalanine hydroxylase to convert it over to tyrosine. And shown here is this metabolic pathway where you have phenylalanine, and by this enzyme it converts over to tyrosine, and then tyrosine can be converted to these other molecules. Well, if you don't have this enzyme here that converts phenylalanine to tyrosine, then this enzyme will take any phenylalanine you have and make more of this product called phenylpruvic acid, also known as phenylketones. And these can build up in the body. Their buildup can greatly reduce mental capabilities. In fact, people who have phenylketonuria, which is an autosomal recessive disorder, which means you inherit this from your parents, they can have reduced brain size, mental retardation, and other developmental aspects are reduced. When you look at things such as Diet Coke and substances that have artificial sweetener, you may have seen this on the back of it. It's phenylketonuria contains phenylalanine. The sweetener in them, aspartame, can be broken down into substances such as phenylalanine and aspartic acid. If you have phenylketonuria, you shouldn't be taking in excess phenylalanine because it'll make lots of phenylketones. So they have to put these warnings on labels in case you happen to be a phenylketonuria. And we'll talk more about this later on. Now, chemistry is going to come at you like a bull. But just hang on. Focus in on what I have on the lecture notes. This is not meant to be a complete chemistry course, but you do need to understand enough of the chemistry to help you with understanding what's happening within the body. Focus on the lecture notes, look at Quizlet, look at the study guides, and you'll do just fine. But this is building a basis for what we're going to need to know in the rest of the chapters. But again, it's not a chemistry course, but you do need to have a certain amount of chemistry to understand the physiological principles that we're going to be talking about in the class. A question: does turkey make you sleepy? Well, every Thanksgiving you hear on the radio or you hear people talking about this substance in turkey called tryptophan. And tryptophan is, it just makes you sleepy. I've had a turkey dinner, now I'm going to get sleepy because of tryptophan. Well, when you look at the scientific basis of this, it makes sense. Tryptophan, it's an amino acid, and it's found in a lot of different proteins. When you take in tryptophan, one of the things that you can do with tryptophan, besides putting it into your own amino acid sequence of skeletal muscles or other proteins, is that tryptophan is used to make this neurotransmitter known as serotonin. And serotonin is used to make the hormone melatonin. And melatonin is used in your circadian rhythm. Melatonin helps to relax you in the evening when it's time to go to sleep. So does turkey, which has tryptophan, make you sleepy? Is that true? Well, let's take a look at this a little bit closer. Tryptophan is an amino acid. In fact, here it is right here. This is part of the 20 amino acids that are common to all humans. And these amino acids are used to make proteins. And proteins could be in skeletal muscle, like for example, the muscle you find in turkey. So when you eat turkey, you take in the proteins from the turkey and you break them down. And there are tryptophan amino acids that make up the skeletal muscle turkey. So when you break that down, you take it into your body, you can use that tryptophan to make other proteins. And as I said before, you can use tryptophan to make serotonin. This is a neurotransmitter that plays a role in mood and creates feelings of well-being and relaxation. Well, serotonin is converted to melatonin. which is usually produced at night within the brain in a structure called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is located right here in the brain. And this melatonin is thought to promote sleepiness and regulate our circadian rhythm, our 24-hour cycle, and the physiological processes of living beings. And its release is slowed when light enters the eyes. So when you wake up in the morning, the sun's coming through your eyes, you decrease the amount of melatonin that you produce. Most protein-rich foods, such as meats and dairy products, contain high levels of tryptophan. In fact, if you look at fish, such as salmon, it contains even higher levels of tryptophan than turkey. So does eating turkey make you sleepy? And the answer is no. It doesn't make you any more sleepy than any of the other meats. And as I said, fish, salmon, contains even more tryptophan than turkey. So you don't go out and have a salmon meal, say at lunch, and you come back and go, oh, I'm so sleepy because of all of that tryptophan that was in the salmon. No, people don't say that. So why do they say that with turkey? Well, think about all the other things that happen in Thanksgiving. You've got family, you've got this huge meal, you're eating all these carbohydrates, and then after this you sit down and you just relax and you feel sleepy. Let's test our knowledge. Go ahead and pause the video and answer the questions. Here are the answers. Well, when you look at the periodic table, this lists all the elements that we know in the universe. And all the matter that we know of is made up of atoms. It's made up of elements. And elements are just a substance that can't be broken down into other substances by chemical reactions. So when you look at this periodic table that's listing all the elements, an element such as carbon only consists of carbon atoms. And usually on a periodic table, they're going to show you a box here. It has a chemical symbol. In this case, it's carbon. It gives you the chemical name. It tells you what the atomic weight is, which is the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. And remember, a proton and neutrons are found in the center of an atom. Protons have a positive charge. Neutrons don't have a charge. And then orbiting around this are electrons. In a neutral atom, for however many protons or positive charges you have just as many electrons orbiting that atom. So it's neutral. You have just as many negatives as positive charges. It's this atomic number that determines what element you have. For example, if I look at carbon, it has 6 protons. Any atom with 6 protons is going to be carbon. If I add another proton to that, then I have 7 protons. You see that 7 right here? You have nitrogen. And then if I add another proton to this atom, then I have oxygen. Oxygen has 8 protons. So as you look along the periodic table, the number of protons determines what element it is, what atom it is. So as I said, elements, these are substances that cannot be broken down into other substances by chemical reactions. It's composed of atoms that have the same atomic number. Atomic number is the number of protons. Now an atom is the smallest unit of an element that still retains the properties of that element. And atoms, of course, as I said, they have a nucleus. A nucleus can have protons and neutrons in it. And then orbiting that nucleus are the electrons. You need to make sure you know the symbols of these 14 essential elements. We've got carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, iodine, sodium. You need to know the symbol that matches the name. So you want to make sure you know these. And when you know these, oh my gosh, you can come up with all kinds of jokes. You can talk about this on date night. You can impress your date with your knowledge of the elements and atoms. So for example, here's a joke you can use on date night. Want to hear a joke about sodium? Nah. Ooh. Because you now know about the elements and atoms, you know that sodium is Na. Oh, and Na is, yeah, that's Na. That's the sodium. Oh my gosh, do you see the potential in knowing this? When you look at the chemical composition of the body, there are about 118 known elements. Around 25 of those elements are required for life. And of course, you know from the previous unit, 99% of our body mass is CHON-CAP, these elements, these 6 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. The remaining 1% includes those trace elements: potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, magnesium, and there's other kinds of trace elements. Let's test our knowledge. Go ahead and pause the video and give the symbols for these 14 essential elements. And then name the 6 elements that make up 99% of our body mass. Here are the answers. We'll conclude this video and we'll go on to the next video.